You're listening to Shoe In, covering the ins and outs of all things footwear, from sneakers to heels, loafers to slippers, and every type of shoe in between. Brought to you by the FDRA, the Footwear Industries Association focused on retail, trade, politics, and fashion, helping create and enhance conversations on all things footwear.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. We just finished up one of our best events we've had since April. I would say a long time, but it was just April. April was great. This last one's great. It was Sourcing and Supply Chain Executive Summit in New York. What's always interesting is the conversations we have with different companies where we get some insights. And one thing that I learned, Matt, was that the Red Sea issue is still really big, and it's still jamming up ships to the point where, cargo may take 40 days to get from Asia into Europe, and now it's taking maybe 8 weeks, which is crazy. And then when you think of that, and how, we had Mike Hammerhand talk a little bit about mold issues at the summit, but you start thinking about the swing in temperatures in a container ship and the challenges you have around like quality control issues with mold and other things. It's a big thing that I wasn't aware of, but probably should have been. And so we want to have an expert come on from Europe to talk a little bit about that and some of the challenges they see. And also, I think Europe's regulation environment is shifting a bit, and how companies can adapt and address that. So who we got today, Matt?
Yeah, thanks, Andy. We have Peter Erren, who's a dear friend of ours. We've known him for a long, long time, who is, I love his LinkedIn lead, right? He is product saver. And that's like the way he likes to kind of capture what he does for the industry. But Peter is the founder of, obviously, Erren Recondition based in Europe. Peter, thanks for coming on. I remember when you and I sat in my office, a decade ago for the first time. It was a long time ago. I don't think have you been on Shoe In before? We've been doing this for 8 years, so I can't remember. So, but welcome either way.
First time. But I have to correct you directly. I'm not the founder. It was my father who was the founder of the company.
My apologies.
No,
respect to him.
I'm the fourth generation in my family in shoe business. So.
Got it. Well, we want to welcome you to Shoe In. Andy kind of kicked it off really, really well, because every week on our member call for FDRA members, you see this. We pull up the satellite imagery over the movement of container ships around the world. And all the container ships are like this bright neon blue. In the Red Sea, there's none. There's not. I mean, you can see maybe a kayak and a couple things hanging out, but nothing's going through. So, how has that impacted your your clients and their business as they've tried to have to move product around the Horn of Africa into the European market? So, what are some of the pitfalls that you've seen relative to the impact of the Red Sea crisis?
At the moment, it's the big issue are delays. Just goods are coming in very late, where you normally see that a lot of stock for winter season is already coming in. I just spoke to a customer last week. Normally at this time they have in 35, 40%, and he told me that they have in between 10 and 15%. So that's the biggest issue. Also in our company, we see that normally we would be in a big high season right now, but it just stretches out into August. And the other hand, we see now in the last weeks the number of mold cases rising. That's a part of the solutions we provide as mold cleaning on product, on shoes, but also on apparel and other general cargo and accessories. But we expect that due to the longer journey the vessels will have to take, the number of mold will dramatically increase by the next 2 months. That's also something we saw in the history. Once there are problems with shipping, it takes longer that ships have to travel to Europe. The more mold cases we will see.
Yeah, I can imagine that mold will definitely have an increase based on those extended travel times. Andy mentioned it at our sourcing summit. People were saying, "Hey, it's 8 weeks now," which is unheard of. I mean, this harkens back. What's that?
It's old-fashioned.
It is old-fashioned. I mean, I think it sounds like they're rowing the containers over. Talk more about kind of the general economic landscape of the European marketplace. We get our headlines here, but you're on the ground there. You're dealing with your clients. You're seeing sell-through rates. You're seeing inventory levels. Kind of what's the current view across like the European landscape, just specifically for footwear? Is inventory up? Are sales down? Kind of what's the mix there?
I think it's the same situation as in the States. People are very uncertain about the economics. When you look at the consumer, they have less and less to spend due to all the regional problems with Russia and Ukraine, and the problems of the energy prices that went up tremendously. Inflation is high. So people just spending less, and we see that through all our customers that less orders, also less inventory. They're really pushing the inventory down, but also the volumes per order went down. Where we saw customers in the past, for example, with order volume in one style, one color, 10,000 pairs, they now take in 5,000 pairs, and that's just a situation where we're in. We still see a lot of bankruptcies in the shoe business here in Europe. So the market is still not back to how we wish it would be.
Yeah. Well, all that tells me that people have to get their product exactly right. It means that they need the design correct, the comfort correct, like the price correct, but also if there's a problem, they need partners to correct it, because you can't do what we did in the past where you write off or you destroy it or whatever, and we can get into that too in a second. But from your perspective, because I know there's a lot of we have a global audience, and so nearly everyone sells in the European market. But if someone has a problem with quality control when it comes into their warehouse, you've been, your company's been there for decades. So how does the process work when someone has a problem? Do they just call you up and explain what it is? And is it full service where you go and get it, or do they have to ship it? What's the process to get it into your facilities to help mitigate any of their quality issues?
When a customer wants, we can take it totally out of his hands. Of course, they have to start with telling us what the problem is. But in most cases, we already have a solution by phone, but we always ask them to send a sample or whatever. Not in cases of mold, then you don't have to send a sample. We know what to do. But in other cases, a lot of technical cases, we just want to have a sample in our hand to give a good quotation, a good fixed quotation. And from there, we can pick up the goods, deliver them back, do the whole process for them. Even, and that's important in Europe, our complete company is a bonded warehouse. So we can take in goods that are not custom cleared, or that have to go to Switzerland or have to go to Norway, or we can take in goods from the UK. And after Brexit, of course, that's a big issue because you cannot move the goods without custom clearance anymore. But since we're having a bonded warehouse, it's not a problem. You don't have to declare any goods. We just can take them in and send them back. So we really try to give a full cover service to our customers, really taking the problems out of their hands. That's what we really want to do. And the most important thing, I always try to turn a customer into a partner, somebody we speak with that can come to us with a lot of questions, and not every question has to be followed by an order, but we really try to help to solve the problem for our customers.
One big thing that's happening, and I know you're going to come to our summit in September, and we're going to discuss this. You're on a panel on kind of regulation strategies that are ever changing, and Europe is far ahead of the U.S. in terms of new rules and regulations around sustainability, traceability, et cetera. But one big thing that we've been tracking and watching is that the European Union is now putting in rules where you can no longer destroy goods, where you can no longer destroy unsold goods, meaning obviously if it doesn't sell through and you're sitting there with it, you need partners to either upgrade the footwear, you need something to do with it. How are you pivoting the business to adapt to these new regulations to, again, support your clients around these things?
This is, of course, a thing that is going on and discussed for several years, and some of our customers, partners already took advantage of it and did not wait till the regulations were there. So yes, you're right. You cannot destroy any new product anymore in the EU. But the biggest question is, are you waiting till regulations are there, or are you take a step forward? And I think a lot of them already did. And it's one of the things we always say when we talk, for example, about circular economy. A lot of people start to think by circular economy about, in my opinion, the second or third step by recycling or reprocessing, whatever. I always say, please start with the first step. And the first step is use the product where it was made for. So when a pair of shoes is damaged or apparel or whatever, repair it. So we don't like to talk about repairing, about reconditioning. So recondition it and use it where it was made for. So in the first step, don't destroy it, don't throw it away. The sources you're throwing away, not only in value, but also in the destroying of fresh water, of raw materials, etc., or labor, it's just a shame when you as a company are throwing away a product. In the past, we did a lot of destruction and I talk about 10, 15 years ago, for companies that had overstock, or from the perspective of brand protection, can you destroy it for us? We did that also a lot. But I think that since 10 years, we just refuse to do it, because, it breaks my heart when somebody comes to me and wants to destroy shoes. I know how many effort was given into a product by somebody in a factory to produce this pair of shoes. So, guys, we should not destroy it. But there are still brands that do this from a perspective of brand protection or whatever.
Right. Yeah. I can imagine. One of the things that I think has kind of caught my interest, and we've known each other again a long time, Peter, is that you've broadened your scope of what you recondition, right? It's not just footwear. That's your core competency. It's your bread and butter. That's your founding, where you got started. But you've expanded out to other product categories. Are there things that you've learned in the reconditioning and the sustainability journeys of other product categories that you think might be helpful in informing us in the footwear industry about best practices, whether it be the extension of the life of the product, as you do so well within your facilities within the European marketplace, or it is end of life? What are some things that you've picked up from some of these other product categories you've worked with recently?
So just to make clear how the step worked from being Erren shoe recondition into Erren Recondition, where we also starting to do different products, especially apparel. On a certain point, the shoe retail changed a lot from, let's say, regular shoe fashion into sport fashion. And at that moment, the sport brands came up. I already thought that this would be the direction we would go also with our retail market, more and more into sport brands. And it's clear that most of the sport brands sell shoes and apparel and accessories. So when we started to work for sport brands, it was just a quick step that sport brands were starting to ask us, next to shoe recondition, also to start apparel reconditioning for them. So in the meantime, we also do a lot of apparel reconditioning. What I learned from this journey on the sustainability part is that, and everybody in our business will know, with the complicated product we are having, with the huge number of components, that for the apparel business, and probably some people will now not be agree with me from the apparel business, but their steps were and are so much simpler than in shoe business. Mm-hmm. And I'm already for 10, 15 years, and also in some round tables in Germany, where they really are on top of this for many, many years. And we try to find solutions, and now I'm talking about end-of-life solutions, because that's a different. Sustainability is such a big issue from cradle till the grave.
Right.
And I'm not talking a little bit about the grave, so the end of life. It's so much easier to recycle or reprocess or reuse apparel instead of shoes. And although they're out in the market at the moment, people that saying that they can really reprocess or recycle shoes, I did not see the real proof of it, where you can really, on a sustainable way, recycle a pair of shoes and then use the product in a common sense. I think you can grind every pair of shoe and make a floor out of it, but I think that's not the solution we're looking for. But in all those years, I did not see a real solution for the end of life of shoes. There are some good ways of solving it, but that's very limited. But there are also other ways you can extend the lifetime of a pair of shoes. As you may know, and you were on the board of Soles for Soles, they do a great job by reusing slightly worn shoes or overstocks, put them back into the market for people in need. That's already a start and a good way. I agree that's not the final thing we're looking for on the sustainability side of shoes, but I think we have still a long way to go. And
yeah, it's an option, right?
I would love to have the solution for it, but it's not there at the moment.
Well, before I know Andy has probably a really compelling question, but before he gets that, I want to sing Andy's praises, because for our listeners who've never been to shoesustainability.com, we have a whole section of that site that really cuts to the matter that you just outlined, Peter, that shoes aren't T-shirts when it comes to end of life and recyclability. And we know policymakers and our colleagues in the European market have utilized this site to educate those in Brussels and elsewhere in capitals around Europe to just say, hey, look, when you're deciding on the regulatory burden of end of life and sustainability and recyclability amongst our products, you can't lump in T-shirts and trainers. You can't lump in T-shirts and sports shoes. They are entirely different. So for our listeners who haven't seen it, Andy just pulled together an amazing site. It's still super relevant. And it really shows you visually the bill of materials for shoes and, what could be a bill of materials for a T-shirt, which you can write on a napkin. And I think it's really a compelling piece and a website that still has a lot of utility in this conversation, because we want to be, to your point, Peter, we want to be pragmatic, right? We don't want to just be pie in the sky and this can be accomplished tomorrow, because we still have to sell shoes to people and we still have to continue to provide that to our consumers. But Andy, you can speak more. You did the whole thing. You can speak more to it.
A lot of, I think, what we see around the EU and regulations are tied to like phones or TVs and electronics, right? So that was kind of the first wave of right to repair, the right, if you have an iPhone, to be able to repair your own iPhone without having issues with Apple or someone else. So there's some work done on that, and the positive is our product looks a lot like electronics, like a lot less copper, obviously, and transitions and energy and things like that, but the complexity of it looks a lot like that. And so the ability for those technology companies to set up infrastructure to retain and recycle and reuse product is a good roadmap. But for us, I feel like we're just far behind that. And one of our big challenges that we do have is restricted substances. Everyone uses different RSL lists. So it's not like you can take a whole batch of shoes and put it into a grinder and get an output that may be suitable for someone without knowing what the RSL is and what the chemicals are in those shoes. And then the same way, like some shoes have wood in it, some shoes have foam, some, so I know there's people working on that. And I think it's probably the same people that Peter has talked to and looked at. And I'm in the same boat. Like I see slices of hope in different places. I don't see full systems. And some of that, and I want to get Peter's opinion on this, some of that is also consumer driven, right? We have consumers who have demands and ideas. And so my question for Peter is on the resale market, if you're refurbishing shoes and the resale, we know that this in the States is a growing kind of push, and some people are dipping their toes in, some people are fully in. But when you even have someone like Nike, who's has launched resale, refurbished shoes back into the market, it's no longer like a really trend. It's a thing there because there is value. To your point, how is the European market around like resale? Do customers, because in the US we I think the majority of customers still want something brand new. They don't want to put their foot into a shoe someone else has worn, even if you clean it. I think that's changing. But in Europe, how do the consumers view this so that when we're talking about reuse and durability and longevity, if people put the money in and the value into a shoe, sneaker or otherwise, it can last, an extended double life from what we have today. Does that mean that this will take off and this will be like new revenue streams and feasible?
The second-hand market in Europe is huge.
Yeah.
But on apparel. We now, even this is our biggest growth for the future. We have a project running with used apparel with brands. It's massive. It's growing every week. And some of these brands also, in the beginning, tried to do it with shoes, but it failed because a shoe is just too complicated. The problem is already the fitting. When somebody walked on a pair of shoes for 2 months, first of all, when I have a piece of garment, I can wash it, I can make it fresh, I can turn it almost into new. With a pair of shoes where I was, let's say, walked on for, let's say, 2-3 months, I already have a problem with the outsole. You can clean it, but you cannot make it into a nice sellable shape. And that's so much different than to apparel. That's so much easier. And that's where I think, yes, the second-hand market will grow. The second-hand market in apparel will be massive, really massive. This is also one of the complaints from the apparel companies that are going bankrupt at the moment. They say the second-hand market is too big. But in shoes, I have my doubt with the regular shoes we're now in, if we will be able to really have a big market in refurbed shoes. And I know that the brands, and we're working with brands to do this, but at the moment it are more signals and marketing than it's really worth to do so.
That's very interesting.
I'm sorry, I would prefer to have a different, and I would be fully on board because that would be a great boost for my company. But it's just so difficult.
Yeah, it's almost like you're having to change consumer expectations on the same pair of shoes in a different way, right? Yeah. For the comfort fit, because again, you're right. If you're wearing it for 2 months, it's not just that there's a crease in the midsole. It's not just that it's a little bit worn, but it could be that you stretch out the materials on the upper and it's not quite as snug as you like, or maybe it's too, so it's just as much a problem as we have selling a brand new pair of shoes to a consumer. It's doubly difficult from what you're saying on the back end, because the consumer may have already bought a pair of Adidas and know the Sambas well. And then if they get a second pair of Sambas, that's completely different, and it may actually hurt brand equity in terms of the difference between the two from a consumer viewpoint.
And there is a market for sure, but I don't think it will be huge.
Yeah. What are you wearing today? Are you wearing Sambas? what kind of shoes? Because I was in Germany.
I'm wearing Spanish sneakers.
Oh, nice. I was in Germany for the Euros. And obviously I pay attention to everybody's shoes, and it was amazing to me how many trainers everybody was wearing. The last time, particularly in Germany, but I saw Swiss fans, I saw Scottish fans, English fans, Danish fans, Serbians, everything from all over Europe were in a mix. And obviously it's summertime, and it's kind of a soccer festival or football festival, and so people are wanting to be more comfortable. But even my German friends I talk to, it's just the market has markedly shifted away from more leather towards more athletic generally in society. Is that what you see as well? And generally,
Definitely. Just like we had in the past, fashion and dress shoes, it's almost gone.
Yeah.
I was a typical guy that always were wearing nicely handmade dress shoes, and I now always run around in sneakers. Okay, preferable and nice handmade Italian sneakers, but still it are sneakers, and that's just the market we are in, and that will. With the comfort, everybody's looking for comfort, and just get more comfort in a pair of sneakers.
Yeah, but to go back to that, I was just surprised because, obviously I go all over Europe, but in Germany in particular, they always had nice leather shoes, even casual leather, but this time it was just completely different, and so I think that's it's a sea change in what I saw, and it was just very interesting to note that.
We all know that when we look at Europe, that for example in the Netherlands and Switzerland, people are picking up fashion the quickest. And I don't want to insult anybody, but the Germans are very slow on that. but finally they will follow. That's just what's happening. But this is just that's what you generally will see. It's in some countries. They're picking up fashion very quickly. In other countries, they're a little bit more conservative. And Germany is one of those countries that's a little bit more conservative. But hey, they're also following the rest of the world.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, depending on what small town you are in Germany, it's still the 80s. They still got denim and they're still listening to Metallica. So
yeah. But I think you can even find some of those towns in America.
That is for sure.
Not in Washington, but...
I'm sure there's some in Washington as well.
Yeah. But you're absolutely right. And this is good, fashion must change, and we must have developments, and we must have new designs, new materials. And you will see, especially when we talk about sustainability, this is one of the topics for the future, because I think a lot of the secrets for our future recycling, circularity will lie in the basic design. How are we going to design our product?
Yeah,
and that's where you can really see some of the brands already making some good progress and inventions. I have a pair of shoes. I don't call the brand, but it's with a big swoosh on the side, where they made a shoe and they connected the outsole with the upper by a lace. So at the end of the lifetime, you just cut the lace and you have your outsole, you have your upper, you have your insole, you have everything apart, and you can just recycle each and every part. That's great. That's a great way of designing in the direction of sustainability. But the other thing is, not everybody wants to walk on the same shoes.
Right. Yeah, exactly right. Peter, thanks for joining us today. Peter will be at our Shoe Sustainability Summit and our Trade and Logistics and Tariff Summit in Portland, Oregon in September. Make sure you go to fdra.org to learn more about those events and sign up there. There's a myriad of people that are coming with these experiences to share, not just on stage and have discussions, but also during the networking time. Again, I find insights during networking time just as valuable as from what we hear from the stage or the audience, because people share so much, and you can get so much by being in the room. So please make sure you attend those events. And Peter, we're looking forward to seeing you again. It's a long, long flight, we know, but your insights are really valuable, and we appreciate your partnership with us, but also with many other brands. And if people are interested in learning, and I always say this, if you don't have a problem today, no problem, but contact Peter and just introduce yourself, because it'll make it easier when you do. And everybody has mold problems. Everybody has quality control problems. Don't wait till you have a problem to make that relationship, and quickly find a solution on that in your European marketplace. So, and we're happy to do the introduction as well. So, Peter, again, thank you very much. We really appreciate your time.
No, you're welcome. I hope to see you soon in Portland.
Thanks, Peter.
Shoeandshow.com is the website. It's got our full catalog. You can go back and take a look. We appreciate you joining us today. Every Monday, new episode drops. And we'll see you next week. And until next time, Shoe In is out.
Shoe In has been brought to you by the FDRA, the Footwear Industries Association focused on retail, trade, politics, and fashion, helping create and enhance conversations on all things footwear. For information about FDRA, visit fdra.org.